Hello and welcome to episode 2 of hashtag SwamPod. That's sports with Adders and Mayo. I am your main host, Mayo Hosco Sports, and here is my co-host, Venomous Typin.
How you all going? Venomous Taipan here, and I'm excited for what episode 2 holds. Episode 1 was good fun. I know I definitely enjoyed myself, and hoping that episode 2 will be just as fun and many more episodes to come.
Alright, let's get down and dirty. So I would like to um first of all say that when this podcast goes up, it'll be after we hear the results of Richmond versus Brisbane in the first elimination final of the AFL. So we will not know the results about that during the recording of this podcast. I'd just like to disclose that off the bat for all of our AFL fans. But in AFL news, Nathan Fyfe will miss potentially the remainder of the final series, which will be a huge blow for Fremantle and their first game against the Western Bulldogs.
Yes, but I'd also argue that the Bulldogs' loss is worse
What did they
because
lose?
it is confirmed that Tom Liberatore is out for the first elimination final.
Oh, ouch! So if the
Right.
Bulldogs win, did they say he's any chance about playing any other games in the finals if they win?
If they win, I'm not too sure how long he was out for. He was ruled out of the elimination. Yeah, that's just all his stats. Where are we? Yeah, next weekend. Yeah, so it's only this weekend from what has been said so far.
And another thing I'd like to get off the bat is that for all of the AFL fans out there, let your thoughts be known about the pre-finals bye. I think it's an absolute joke. It was brought in as an attempt to stunt the amount of tanking that goes on in the last round of the season. I think the AFL has to acknowledge that their efforts worked. Nobody tanks in the last game of the season anymore, so they should get rid of the pre-finals bye because they've successfully eliminated that tanking.
But haven't they
And
only? Well, I'm gone.
yeah, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, but haven't they eliminated that from the pre-finals by though?
Well, what I would like to see the AFL do is get rid of it just for next year and see if teams tank. Because if they get rid of it for next year and teams still tank, then that'll be justification of having the pre-finals bye. And onto NRL news. Speaking of the pre-finals bye, the Penrith Panthers on Tuesday on their team rap sheet listed that they are resting 12 of their starting 13 players.
Really? Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. They got literally nothing to lose.
Exactly, they've got nothing to lose. And if you have watched NOL 360 on the Fox League channel 502 on the Foxtel network, they were indeed talking about, does that compromise the integrity of the game?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, that's what the AFL brought in the preseason, well, pre-finals by, for that sort of reason. Like Penrith has got top spots sewing up, so it doesn't really help. I mean, it helps the Cowboys. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, they're still
Yeah,
fighting for second spot, but
yeah, because they're still fighting to host a home qualifying final. So I just thought that was an interesting parallel between the two ways the two biggest leagues in Australia have gone about things. I thought that was an interesting parallel.
and was also interesting was I've heard yesterday that Latrell Mitchell was not at training, so I don't
Yes.
know.
I according to the reports, that was because um the South Sydney Rabbitohs coach excused him from midweek practice to take some personal leave to go to his farm in Tamworth, I believe, and from
Yeah.
and also according to the reports, Latrell Mitchell his has cleared his mind, and it was a tactical decision to let him take some personal leave they might not have wanted any bad media attention in the city of Sydney surrounding the reopening of the Sydney Football Stadium, um, commercially known as Allianz Stadium. The Rabbitohs feared that Latrell Mitchell might get involved in the media, and there might be a circus about that. So
Yes, like
yeah,
there always is.
that was according to the reports, and because the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Sydney Roosters absolutely hate each other, the Sydney Roosters didn't actually let the Rabbitohs do a captain's run out of spite.
Really? Well then, I mean, it is a pretty important game, especially if the Storm beat Parramatta. It would be fifth and a home elimination, and the loser would end up seventh. So,
Mm, yeah.
which is an away elimination.
So there
So,
are tons of ramifications for the final round of the NRL season. Moving on to the EPL, the English Premier League. Venomous, who do you support in the EPL?
I do support Liverpool with a happy smile on my face. I must add,
And how many goals did they beat AFC Bournemouth by?
9-9 nil to be exact.
And how colossal is that in the sport of association football?
Well, let's just say I'm pretty sure it's equal biggest margin in EPL history.
Yes, because I recall a couple years ago the Chelsea Football Club actually beat someone by 8-0.
Yes.
And I forget who the former manager is of AFC Bournemouth, but he was fired overnight after that
Really?
after that trouncing. Yes,
Really? Over one game?
yeah, let me go. Yeah, his name is Scott Parker, and it says news story on the EPL app. Bournemouth have sacked Scott Parker as head coach after a run of 3 league defeats, and I literally just half an hour spoke to a Cherries fan on Twitter, and they actually said that the fans of Bournemouth have united themselves after the head coach's sacking because they believe that was the ball that needed to get rolling to make serious change at that soccer team.
I mean, I think it is a little bit harsh, 3 defeats and one big massive one sacking the coach. But obviously seems to be other underlying issues as to why they've done it. Obviously through the fans. So I mean, obviously there must have been stuff behind the scenes. But yeah, so
Well, I'll go as far as saying that EPL teams within English Association football are the are the most impatient with getting results out of their coaches and managers. So Bournemouth sacking their head coach this early in the season with that with how bad that loss was actually does not surprise me one bit.
yeah, I mean, especially I'm surprised though. I would have thought like the littler clubs would have been more patient, just because
No,
they're probably not going to get as big results compared to the bigger clubs. I mean, let's be
no,
honest, the big six have got a lot more pressure.
no. That's because they're fighting against being relegated back into the EFL Championship. Because once you get relegated, you actually lose funding from the English FA.
That is true, but do you reckon Bournemouth will get relegated though? Do you think they're
There's
that bad
there's
they
a,
would
a
have got
chance
relegated?
there's a chance they will, and more
Okay.
often than not, teams that get promoted from the EFL Championship to the EPL often get relegated the very next season. I mean, Newcastle West Bromwich Albion and Norwich City know all too well about that.
Yes, the very sort of up and down, win and then come into the EPL and get relegated.
Yeah.
It's almost an on and off type thing.
Now moving towards the NFL, who do you support in the NFL?
I am a New England Patriots fan.
And I heard on ESPN that their quarterback Mac Jones threw well he spiked his team endorsed tablet into the ground because he was frustrated with the Patriots offense in their preseason.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, emotions always run high, especially with like that type of thing with the pressure at the start of the season. The problem with the Patriots is just their offense and their inability to score. If you take scoring out of it, I don't think they're too bad of a side, but they just don't have the scoring potential at the moment. And even just looking through their results, they haven't really scored that highly. They've been sort of lowish scores every time they've played in the preseason so far. So
Yeah, because they've got a massive cloud hanging over their heads about the coaching on offense because they actually don't have an offensive coordinator. They actually don't have an offensive coordinator on their within their football program. They're going to have to
yes.
roll with that. They're going to have to roll with Matt Patricia, who only 5 years ago was their defensive coordinator.
Yes, which is a bit strange. Why does anyone really know why they didn't go after another one once Josh McDaniels actually left?
I think I think it's because Bill Belichick thinks too much of himself, and he'll remember that he actually went to the Super Bowl without. He was the last coach to go to a Super Bowl without having an offensive coordinator in their football program. Back when they lost to the New York Football Giants in the 2011-2012 season.
Mm, true. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I still think that's a very big risk, but
Yeah.
especially now in today's game.
And then moving on to the NBA, I also heard on ESPN that John Wall came out about his mental health. Now, I am a mental health activist, and I say that mental health is health. So it was very troubling and disturbing for me to hear that he had the courage to come out and say that he contemplated suicide, which alarmed me very, very heavily. I know that John Wall has had a lot of injury troubles really ever since his last year with the Washington Wizards, and his injuries compromised his sneaker contract with Nike or Adidas.
I think it's Nike. I
Yeah,
think
yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Nike, and then
yes.
he bounced around to the Rockets, and was it the? I believe the Clippers claimed him off waivers or something,
Was
or
it?
it was a veterans minimum free agency or something.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I know the Clippers didn't. I don't think he's on very much at all, and the Clippers pretty much gave up nothing for him, which the Clippers, I think, are going to be a very strong team. I saw a report today. I can't remember who mentioned it, but there was someone out there believing the Clippers were going to beat the Warriors in the West.
Yeah, because I think the consensus coming into the next NBA season is that it'll be the Golden State Warriors and the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals because Kawhi Leonard is coming back from his season long injury last year.
True.
Paul George is coming back into shape after his season last season was troubled by injuries, and also there are lots of people who say that Ty Lue is the best coach in the NBA right now.
One thing I will say, though, with the Clippers and the question mark I would have over them is how well they bounce back from those injuries, and particularly Kawhi, because he's been out for so long.
Yeah.
They're not
Also,
going to get straight back up. So,
Also, not to mention that Kawhi Leonard, after all, is the poster child for load management, probably across the whole of American sports.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, and so I thought it was really I thought it was really brave of John Wall to admit that, and he also came out and said that he had a very strong and helpful support network which got his mind back into a better place, and that makes me really happy to hear, because I know people who have joked about committing suicide in the past, and they stopped joking about that because they found good support networks, and they're in a much better place now. So I wish nothing but the best for John Wall in his recovery to overcome any mental health issues.
Yes, and I think that's the power of a sport too. You know,
Yeah.
people being able to go out there and open up on stuff like that, and then people. I know it can be quite ruthless sometimes in how passionate the fans are, but there is a positive side to all of that with the fans like coming together with stuff like mental health, you know, the LGBTQI community, all those type of, you know, more people coming out with that and like people getting behind all of that through sport. So
Yeah, I know this is a very touchy subject, and so we have to be very careful with our language. But I, as a mental health activist, I'm proud of John Wall, and I hope he has a good season with the Clippers next year. I hope he can at least average 20 points. It would be amazing and a sight to see, because when he came out of college, he was one of the best prospects, and I just hope that he can get I just hope he can get his career back on track, get himself into a better state of mind, and I hope that one day John Wall will get a championship ring on his finger. I am rooting for John Wall.
yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how long he's actually going to have left in his career. That's the only thing. I'm not too sure whether he's going to win a championship. I feel like now, especially for him, it's either with the Clippers or it's bust. But
Yeah,
um,
I think his best chance to get a championship ring is if the Clippers come out of the West this season. Your
yeah,
thoughts?
yes. If they can get past Golden State, no, there definitely is. It's definitely as a Celtic supporter, one team I'm worried about. Actually, the two teams I'm worried about are the Clippers and the Warriors, especially if Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, John Wall's probably not going to be his all star self, but he's definitely going to be a good role player for that team and a good extra piece for them. So,
Yeah, I think I think the way we'll know when the John Wall is back is if he gets those All Star votes. I think that'll be I whenever he does, that'll be the sign that John Wall is back. Anyway, moving on to Major League Baseball. The one of the premier Cy Young contending pitchers, Justin Verlander from the Houston Astros, Cheaters, um, has been put on the 15-day on the 15-day injury reserved list, and a lot of people have actually mounted a case for him to be the MVP with his record low ERA. So that's got to be a big blow for Houston's chance at getting the pennant in the American League.
yes.
I'm not quite sure how many games Houston will play over the next 15 days, but it's definitely them against the Yankees, much like how it's probably the Dodgers against the Mets in the National League for the pennant race. So the next 15 days in baseball, a lot of things could change, because the Dodgers and the Mets have a series against each other. Hope we'll have to see if Aaron Judge can add on to his home run total, which yesterday he reached 50 home runs in the season in pursuit of breaking Roger Mauser's clean home run record of 61.
Well, he's at 51 at the moment. So he hit
Well,
another
another
one
home
today.
run.
So,
And much like Shohei Ohtani, who I think the most amount of people are predicting to win the MLB MVP, um, much like Ohtani, Aaron Judge added to his record while losing a game of baseball.
yeah. I was going to say, just going back to the Astros thing quickly, there'd be at least 10 games, surely, over 15 days. At
Yeah, you'd
least.
think something like that.
Or
And
it'd
so
be
it'll be interesting to see if Houston's bullpen with the pitching rotation can hold up without their Cy Young caliber pitcher in Justin Verlander.
all I'm going to say is if you want to play Houston, now might be the time. Get them while they're weaker. That's
Yeah,
definitely ideal.
I don't think there's any better time to be playing Houston, especially in Houston where they have an impeccable home park advantage.
Yes.
So moving on to golf, which is something we haven't talked about on this podcast yet. Cam Smith, who won the British Open this year and is now ranked number 2 in the world in the Professional Golfers Association, has defected to the Live Golf Tour. So he had a chance at being Australia's greatest recognised golfer, period. But now, the jury is out because he has taken the Saudi Arabian money to go play on the Live Golf Tour, and no one is going to be watching him for a while now because the Live Golf Tour doesn't have a negotiated TV contract.
Which I believe will change, especially if you're going to pay so much money for all these best players. Surely you'd have money then to be able to do a broadcast deal and TV people. It's an interesting one actually with the TV deal because for me, it's a very controversial league. A lot of golfers are going there for the money. So a lot of like some of the best golfers like Cam Smith are going over there, so I think the TV broadcasters, I'm not too sure whether they want to, but I think they will just because of the amount of prolific golfers that are already there. And it's going to be sad to say, do you think there'll be a point where the Live Golf Tour will take over the PGA?
I can see it happening simply because of all of the money that's there and all of the talent that they've poached from the PGA. They've just got to announce themselves on the world stage by getting themselves a TV deal. Because I believe any of our North American viewers, please correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below. But I believe the PGA is on both CBS and NBC select for select tours and open events.
Yeah.
So I could see the Fox network or FS1 negotiating a deal with the Live Golf Tour because the Fox network and FS1 like to pay unders for leagues that don't get as much attention because they share they share joint TV rights with NBC for NASCAR. They have the TV rights for the USFL, which pales in comparison to the NFL. So they're willing, I think that network is willing to throw their money around at enough B grade sports leagues that, particularly in North America, where golf is, where, which is by far golf's biggest TV and participation market in the world. I could see out of the major networks in North America, Fox most likely to want to strike up a deal with the Live Golf Tour.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be a good catch for them too. I mean, I reckon a lot of golfing fans actually. I'm actually be curious on the ratings on that because I know, as mentioned before, it is very controversial. How many people would actually jump on that? to watch the prolific golfers, or whether they go, no, I don't like what's happening, I'm going to stick with the PGA. That'd be an interesting one for me because I don't
Yeah.
know which way they would actually go. I mean, it
And
probably also
in
depends
yeah,
on the person.
and for in a coup for the PGA Tour, their poster child, Rory McIlroy, won the latest event. I believe it was the BMW Championship. So
I'm not sure actually.
yeah, so that was a good news headline for the PGA, because it was because a lot of people since the Live Golf Tour have announced themselves on the world stage have been rooting for Roy to win events on the tour, because he has unquestionably committed himself thoroughly to the PGA Tour.
Yeah, which is interesting. Why would golfers want to go to the PGA to the Live other than the money?
Yeah, that is the
That's
case. The money and what Phil Mickelson brought up when people were telling basically an old man to sit down and shut up was actually true, because the reason he defected was because not just because of the money, but also the way the PGA Tour has such strict control of the name, image, likeness, and branding that comes along with the players. He thought that they put a stranglehold on how PGA Tour golfers were able to market themselves, and those restrictions don't exist on the Live Golf Tour.
okay. That is interesting. They don't
And
suppose to
still, and
for it.
still, people hold strong resentment to the Live Golf Tour because of the Saudi Arabian blood money that is attached to it. And I've seen people debate that stuff, and I don't really have a strong opinion about the subject, because I'm just really not that interested into golf, me personally. But the strongest opponents I've seen of the Live Golf Tour were a nationally recognized group of survivors from 9/11 who have emphatically deprived the league for taking the Saudi Arabians' blood money.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. I mean, especially now, I think it is important for McIlroy to sort of keep winning, as you mentioned
Yeah,
before, and it does open the draw for him a bit with more golfers going there as well.
yeah. So that was their opinion of the Live Golf Tour, and the golfers are obviously in it for the money. I'm not sure. I just don't have a hardcore opinion, because I understand why a survivor of 9/11 wouldn't like it. But I also understand why Phil Mickelson and other Live Golf Tour players would like it, because of the benefits that they get. But there have been a lot of people that have said that they have sold out.
It would be interesting because I'm pretty sure the deal was 140 million for him to go over to the LIV tournament,
Yeah, and
which is a lot of
and
money.
I thought I heard that they reportedly offered Tiger Woods a billion, or somewhere close to $1 billion, to go on the Live Golf Tour, but he
Yeah, it was something like
declined
that.
that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't know whether they would have actually paid him that, but yeah, that's what people were saying. So
Well, I think that just about wraps everything up for
actually, there
episode
is something I
two.
do want to mention though that we haven't
Yes.
talked about yet that we
What?
didn't mention, and that was the cricket.
Um, do you have something you want to say about the cricket?
Well, I don't know whether you have seen the BBL draft that happened on Sunday night.
No.
Right. Because the BBL draft, it's the first time they've actually done it, and there's been a lot of controversy around it for the local players, and also in terms of how all the processing sort of worked. So, because essentially what the BBL draft was all the international players essentially got picked in a draft, and they were categorized based on how good they were: platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. So obviously platinum was round one. For example, Rashid Khan got picked up for the Strikers at pick two. Thank you to the Stars. We have to pay more money. So thank you, Melbourne Stars, for that. But anyway.
What do you mean we have to pay more money?
So, as far as I know, what happened was you have a retention pick. So, if someone's been with your club or BBL franchise previously, you can use that retention pick to retain that player. So, what happened was the Stars actually had the second pick. They actually picked Khan, and the Strikers used their retention pick. So, instead of picking up at 5, we picked him up at 2, which I believe means he's on a bigger contract as far as I remember. I don't know how much bigger, but I believe that is how it works.
So was that structured in a similar way to how they do the father son in the AFL draft?
In terms of the retention pick, yes, it was, or an academy player as well. That's how they sort of did it. It was essentially like the AFL draft for international BBL players to play for a BBL franchise. It was essentially just like the AFL draft, in other words. So,
Interesting.
which
So
the Strikers
I'm sorry.
managed to pick up. I'm going to say the Strikers managed to pick up 3 players. I don't know whether you heard about that. The 3 players that the Strikers picked up.
No, I haven't. I haven't heard a lot of cricket news this week
So we picked up Khan, obviously, which I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I do love Rashid Khan, but he's only going to be there half of the season. So
because of his commitment to the Afghanistan ODI team. Is it?
no, I believe it's due to the UAE T. Is it the T20 league or T10 league? The UAE's got on a lot of them. Like, for example, the Strikers signed Chris Lynn last week as well. We
Oh,
only have
really?
him half the season before he goes over there as well. So
And do you suspect that BBL franchises are only getting players to sign for half-year contracts because they're not getting the money they can get elsewhere?
well, the thing is, they're getting actual full contracts, but they're leaving halfway through because they are going to other leagues pretty much for the money. The UAE, even though it's not as prestigious or as big in terms of talent pool, a lot of people are going there for the money, which is why I think the BBL sort of had this draft to up the money, which has caused a bit of an issue for the local players because, from what I'm hearing, the international players have gone up in terms of the money, but the local players, I believe, are actually getting paid less this season. So,
So then why? So if the BBL knows that players are intentionally breaking contracts, why don't they have a measure in place like pay for play?
that's an interesting one. I think they're just worried then that not too many people would then actually play in the tournament, considering there are other um, leagues during that time and also international commitments as well. They'd be very then sort of limited onto international players because, as far as I know, like out of the 12 like big superstar platinum players, one didn't get picked up, which was very interesting. Might have been due to availability, even though none of them were available anyway. And there was only one player, I believe, from that platinum list that's available for the whole tournament. So
Wow.
there's a lot
So
of
it seems to me like there's a lack of money within the BBL
yes.
to
I
be
mean that
able
is
to pay the players enough so that they don't go to other leagues to get more money.
yes. Well, the
It's
thing is though,
it's
Cricket
it's the
Australia
same.
could have.
Hang on, I just wanted to chime in with a follow up. It's just like how WNBA players end up having to go to Europe to play in female European basketball leagues because they're their WNBA contracts don't pay them enough money, so they go elsewhere to get money, and then you get international controversies like Brittany Griner.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, Cricket Australia could make a stand. Like they could have blocked it, but I think they're playing maybe too nice, maybe
Yeah,
because they're worried about the international.
perhaps
Cup.
perhaps they're scared of the
Well, they
players,
probably are. No
which
doubt. They're sort of
means
catering to the international players.
yeah, which means that they're handing leverage to the players, and they have to do that because they know if they are if the those in international players stop playing here, ratings will go down across the board
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
because essentially it'd be it'd be the what they used to do with the Ryobi Cup, and that had terrible ratings.
Yes, it did. But I think that was also due to the time of year it was in. It was sort of around, well, mid September anyway. So it's,
Yeah, that thing had terrible ratings. Anyway, that just about does us for episode 2 of hashtag SwamPod, sports with Adders and Mayo. Just a reminder of some of the schedules. Um, after this episode is uploaded in the AFL, Melbourne and Sydney will be playing on Friday night at 7:50 p.m. Eastern. Not Carlton. Geelong and Collingwood will be playing at 4:35 Eastern on Saturday. The Western Bulldogs and Fremantle will be playing at 8:10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. This week's action in the EPL, if I can load up this app,
well, it's
come
double this
on.
week. There's actually games on tonight, our time zone,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
this
really?
weekend as well. There's a double up.
Yeah.
So we actually miss, so back and forth for a little bit, but yeah, we miss two
Yeah.
lots. There'll be two
Yeah,
lots by the
because
time we go back for next week.
because there were some EPL games that happened today. Crystal Palace
Yes.
drew 1-1 with Brentford. Fulham beat Brighton and Hove Albion 2-1. Southampton bet Chelsea two
Yes, that
one.
is correct.
Interesting.
Yes.
That would be an upset. That was in Southampton, not at Stamford Bridge. Leeds United drew 1-1 with Everton, and tonight Bournemouth play Wolverhampton, Arsenal play Aston Villa, Manchester City play Nottingham Forest, West Ham United play Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool play Newcastle, and then on Friday, Leicester City play and on Friday, Leicester City play Manchester United. I don't have the MLB baseball app, so I don't know the schedule, but in that. If you're a baseball fan, you know that the schedule doesn't really matter because they're always playing midweek and it's so hard to keep up with the baseball
Oh,
or
there's
the
always
NBA
games on
schedule.
all the time. So,
Exactly. There's games on all the time. And moving on over to the NRL draw, the event when this is uploaded, the events of the Parramatta Eels and the Melbourne Storm will have already been played out, but the Canterbury Bulldogs play the Manly Seagulls at 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday night, and then at 8 p.m. the Sydney Roosters played the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Then on Saturday, the New Zealand Warriors played the Gold Coast Titans. The St George Illawarra Dragons played the Brisbane Broncos. North Queensland Cowboys play the Penrith Panthers. Then on Sunday, the Newcastle Knights play the Cronulla Sharks. The Balmain West Tigers play the Canberra Raiders, and that will be the last game of the regular season in
which
the
could decide,
NRL. A
which
lot
could
of
decide D8, which is very
yeah,
interesting.
a lot of games in that round 25 of the NRL,
And you also
which
forgot to
will
mention the AFL Thursday night, Brisbane and Richmond as well. I know we mentioned it
yeah. The
earlier.
reason I didn't mention that is because when this is uploaded, the results of that game will have already been played out.
That is a fair point.
Anyway,
Didn't think about that,
yeah.
but you know.
Anyway, so just to remind all of our viewers at home, this is uploaded every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to ring that notification bell on the Mayo Hosco Sports channel and the Venomous Typin channel, so that wherever you are in the world, you will always be notified about when we are dropping the latest episode of SwamPod. Don't forget to use the hashtag SwamPod on social media if you want to tweet at us, or if you want to um if you want to post stories, photos, or reels about us on Instagram, or if you want to talk about stuff that we said directly in the episode, don't forget to comment about it in the comments down below. Be sure to like all be sure to like this episode of SwamPod. And Venomous, do you have any social media?
Yes. So go subscribe to Mayo Sports, and all his other associated channels. Also subscribe to the Venomous Typin YouTube channel, where this will be uploaded as well. And you can also follow me at Venomous Typan 269 on Instagram. So go follow that. Do as Mayo mentioned, hit the subscribe button, the bell, notifications, and also comment down below. Always helps commenting down below and seeing
Yeah.
what you guys think about the topics that we have mentioned in each episode of SwamPod.
So subscribe to both of our channels, Mayo Hosco Sports and Venomous Typin, to get all the latest episodes of hashtag SwamPod. You can also subscribe to my main channel, Mayo Hosco, and for all of my different social media links, be sure to go to mayohosco.weebly.com. That is mayohosco.weebly.com. Who knows what next week in the world of sports will entail for us? There is always something on the sporting calendar.
Not wrong there.
So we will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Yep. See ya, everybody.
Bye. Taking longer to end the broadcast. An error occurred.